Well, we might have a look at Photo Investigator. This is one of our major initiatives to digitise sections of our photographic collection. To date we've done about 5,500 images. They can be searched in a variety of different ways, and one of the simplest ways is just to go in under a subject. Today let's have a little look at restaurants and cafes, because that's where we find an absolutely delightful selection of images from railway refreshment rooms. And each not all of them, but many country stations had a refreshment room, because in the days before buffet cars on XPTs and so on, you had to actually wait until you got to the station, which had somewhere where you could buy tea and coffee and food. Now, some of the refreshment rooms were quite simple affairs, and if we have a look at the one at Armidale, for example, and you can see that although it's quite a simple area, they've made it all look very nice with the use of little doilies, and as was the case with many of them, they actually serve drinks as well, alcoholic drinks that is. Then if you go on further, you'll see the tables for the one at Bathurst, for example, very nicely set with flowers and napkins sitting in glasses and tablecloths, proper cloth tablecloth. So that was quite an elegant way of dining. Then further along, as we go along a bit more, at Cootamundra, for example, the kiosk consists of one solitary woman standing at the counter about to serve tea and coffee, and you can see when you look at the ground that it looks as though it's dirt or a very rough type of concrete, and there doesn't seem to be an awful lot there to buy either, so that one doesn't look particularly welcoming at all. Junee had a particularly beautiful refreshment room, and this image here is taken from the sitting room, an area for people to sit, an armchair, a small fire, and then there's also some images of the desk where people could sit and write. Then we come to Central, and of course on Central we actually had a snack bar assembly, and there's a great image here. Looking at the outfits, it has to be the early part of the 20th century, and I would say probably before the flapper period, so the skirts are quite long, and set up, there's a soda fountain and ice cream and snacks, and very nice wooden structure, and obviously section where they were serving alcoholic drinks as well. And then there's some images of the interior of the milk bar at Central, and you can see this is a far more modern affair than the previous kitchen, with lots of nice stainless steel, and the women working there in uniform. Now let's have a look at some other ones. Now this is a similar structure to the one that I referred to earlier, which was from the early part of the 20th century. This one I think is probably in the same space, but a far more modern, and this is the late or the mid-40s, 1946, and you can even see a couple of men still in army uniforms, probably men who hadn't yet been demobbed from the army after the Second World War, and again they're standing around having a drink. But what of course is amusing, that we see the price of the drinks, and fourpence for those who aren't familiar with pre-decimal currency. I suppose it might equate to 5 cents. And then there are a few images taken from the kitchens of the refreshment rooms. This one here that we're looking at now is from Cootamundra, and you can see that it's a very simple kitchen area, nothing like a modern industrial kitchen that you might expect to see today. Large fuel stove, fairly simple table, which was obviously the use for preparation, and then a sort of a sink area. So nothing very complicated at all, yet they obviously had to prepare reasonably quick meals and reasonably appetising meals. Then some of the other images show the staff quarters, for example, because of many of the refreshment rooms, the staff weren't from the local area, they had to be billeted or housed. Very interesting images for study of local history or for other purposes, because they show a particular building style. So they're very useful from that point of view, apart from anything else about telling us the story.